We have got Minority Leader, Senator James Moylan, and shortly we'll be joined with Minority Whip, Senator Frank Blas Jr. So, congratulations on the inauguration and this leadership roles that you guys have been elected to serve in. And so, does this mean, Senator Moylan, that you'll actually have public hearings on some of your bills that you've introduced?
Well, I hope I do, as well as my colleagues as well. And that's, of course, we're going in there with that positive outlook. I'm working with our new speaker, Senator Chilahi, and of course with the newly assigned core committee chair, Senator Tina Munya as well. So we believe so. I think the 36th Guam legislature is coming in full force. Both parties, to especially for us Republicans, we got back in, and I'm glad to be back in, of course, with my fellow Senator Frank Blas Jr. here, with his experience coming back in the 36th. So we want to step it up. We want to get things moving, and we need the public hearings. Yes, so we'll be pushing that politely and running the rules to play fair. And with the numbers being 8-7 now, I think it's important that all our voices get heard. So I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Senator Frank Blas Jr., Minority Whip? Can you tell me a little bit about what does Minority Whip, what does that even mean? And what kind of...
Well, first off,
good morning.
Well, first off, good morning. Good morning, Bree, Andy, Jason, KUM, Guam. My job primarily would be to whip votes. Let's find out where we're at vote-wise with regard to the legislation that we're going to put on the floor. Help the authors and the sponsors of the bill garner the support, help to find out, what may be some of the issues that the bills may have, and see if we can come to a compromise or fix the issues that other people may have, so that we can be successful once the bill hits the floor and moves through the floor into the voting file. And so it's an exciting job. I'm humbled that my colleagues have the faith that I'll be able to do it, and it gives me that opportunity to interact with everybody, both sides of the aisle. I've always been one that, okay, now that we're on the floor, put the partisan politics outside and let's work on what's best for the people. And I think that this role will help me to do that.
Well, you guys weren't kidding when you said last week on the show that you plan to hit the ground running. For sure, you made good on what you said you guys were going to do, and you introduced those 3 bills.
Yes, we did. Senator Frank Blas here as well, myself, and Senator Tony Atta and Senator Chris Duenas. We looked at some economic recovery bills that we feel would definitely help the businesses on Guam open their doors as we continue to improve on the health of our community, to open our businesses safely for the public, and to generate the income so desperately needed for the general fund to work. We realize that the BBT, of course, is at a high percentage, at 5%. And, when we had that FY19 audit, we were in the black back then, and we could have made a move to reduce the BBT back down to 4%. And initially, when this 5% started, because at that time, it was due to the Trump tax cuts, corporate tax cuts, and it was supposed to be just for 6 months to see how we are weathering and how the government can maintain their services. And then it went from 6 months to a year, and then from a year to the famous words now of forever. But this pandemic has shown that we really need to recover and recover quickly. And we're doing a much better job, or we really improved on the health of our community with the Cabrera score, right? And it keeps on reducing, and especially our hospitalization has reduced greatly too. So we feel this is a good time for the BBT to be reduced, as well as the other measure, the Dave Santos amendment, increasing that maximum threshold from $250,000 to $500,000. Again, helping our small businesses open their door, maybe purchase more equipment, maybe hire another person. And then the million and more to put a moratorium on that for a couple of years. These buildings, they're some of them are rental buildings, and it affects the businesses because their rent may have been increased due to this. That was the first public law in the 35th Guam legislature.
Senator Moylan, I'm sorry, if we could just put a pause real quickly. We've got to say goodbye to our viewers on KUAM TV8. Please, if you're watching us on television, switch on over to our Facebook page or 93.9. We'll see you in a bit. And we are back. Thanks for watching, listening, streaming. The link here on 93.9, The Breeze. Senator Moylan, you were saying?
Oh, yes. I think I left off on the million plus more. And recently we heard how Gita was trying to adjust their footprint at their current building to, affording the rent payment and not having to increase that expense too. And many businesses are doing the same thing. Could have been apartment buildings as well. And as we know, hotels too. And we desperately need our tourist market to come back and how they're going to open up. We can help these businesses by reducing their expenditures. And that's one of the measures. And Senator Frank Blas, I'm glad he joined in as well. And I know our other Republicans have other measures that they will be introducing here shortly too, that we will be supporting.
Right. And actually, you just mentioned other measures. The legislature's website, I guess it's live now. I've been checking it actually for since this morning, and so now it actually is live. And I noticed that Senator Tony Atta introduced Bill 7. I don't think this is one of the bills that the three of you had worked on relative to repealing the assessment of business privilege and use taxes on medical equipment and telemedicine technology. Is this something that you guys also worked on with him, or he's on his own?
Not necessarily worked on specifically, but we all in agreement that we've got a rough road ahead of us economically, and we've got to do everything that we can to be able to bring us to some type of normalcy. I think that over the last 11 months, if you will, we've gone through, for lack of a better term, an exercise that basically showed that there may be some things that we've taken for granted or that we've set aside that begs us to look into, so that we can see whether or not this is viable or this is something that is actually will it help us or will it hurt us to try to get back on our feet. And so I agree with Senator Jim, although, I know that his characterization of the Cabrera score is basically Jim that just told him that you're listening to another radio station too. But anyways, this characterization and the community effort that it wants to get back on its feet. Yes, we have a medical issue and a virus that we have to deal with, but I think we are dealing with it. And just like what we had to go through after 9/11. All right, I think we can all agree that getting on an airplane never was the same. There are now procedures and things that we have to abide to, that we have to adhere to before we can even travel, and it shook us all up. But now it's a normal thing. Okay, and so what is that normalcy now that we got to look at? And then in business, how can we get, first off, normal may not be the normal that we knew before. It may be the creation of a new normal, but it's got to start somewhere. Our island now is suffering from basically an economic virus, and we've got to find a cure for that. I ran on the platform of trying to find or working of ways to be able to bring back our economy and to grow it. this case is a great opportunity to be able to do this. And I think that this legislation, these pieces of legislation that we've all co-sponsored and introduced, as well as the legislation that our colleague Senator Ada introduced, are these steps that are necessary to have at least to have a discussion. And if it can be fixed without legislation, then great. But if legislation is necessary, then it's legislation that is something that that actually works and that actually helps. And that's going to be the thing. Therein lies the challenge.
We do have a comment here. It's not economic recovery when you're cutting government revenue for essential public services. What is your response?
Well, I think, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, well, first off, government is part of the economy. Government isn't the economy. Okay, and in order for this to be able to survive, there has to be an economic engine. There has to be a driver to this, and that is the business activity. That's not just the wholesalers and the retailers and those people. Those are the consumers as well. Giving them that opportunity. I'm sure you've read, you've had stories, or you've done, you've heard it yourself, that in this past, Christmas season, and as stores were closed, a lot of the money that we received that's supposed to be able to spur our economy actually left our economy. Mm-hmm. In the cases of Amazon and eBay and whatnot. And it's not to the fault of any of the consumers, because they needed to find someplace, a way to be able to get what they needed. Well, how can we work so that there is money that is circulating in the economy, and there is money that's coming into the island. Now, when that does happen, when it happens, it's not necessarily from a government function, that's from a community function or a business function. And so there's got to be that understanding. Government, I'm of the theory of the belief, government should only exist in areas that the community cannot provide. Okay, and then at the same time, you can't run government as a business. It's in the business of spending. So there's got to be that driver to bring the money in, and that's what we're trying to help. I mean, we're working on.
One thing we heard. Go ahead, Senator Moylan.
Thank you, and I agree with Senator Blas as well. And we had that's a common argument, of course, that parties have disagreements about. And really, we mentioned that we had the FY19 audit, and we were in the black, 30 million plus dollars. Did we see any relief to the people? No. And by reducing taxes, those taxes on BBT, it's regressive taxes. That's when folks go in for their basic necessities in the grocery store to buy what they need for the basic food on the table. That price is all built into those items. Do we want to continue to charge it so high that it's difficult for people to survive and make a basic living, right? When we can help, as legislatures, we can help to streamline our government and help the prices come down by not overtaxing folks. So we were in the black. We could have did something more. We didn't at that point. We should now, as I mentioned, and the governor has also mentioned too, not feeling that there's any need for that the government is doing well enough to maintain their services and to continue. And at some point here, or what we're seeing now, is a lot of employees are working from home as well. The governor doesn't necessarily feel that we are in a situation where we had to do some reorganization or pointing our priorities in another direction. Feels positive about how things are going. Well, if that's the case, why can't we also help the businesses that really function to produce these taxes, by helping them open their doors, especially now. They've been closed it's going to be close to a year, and we're wondering when the tourists are going to come back. We're wondering how we're going to continue the payment of GDOL is really helping with the federal money of the PUA. We got the extension until March 31st. So where's the plan of action? If Adelup is now saying we're going to put together a task force we've heard what Chamber wants. We've seen what the people are talking about. We're listening to the news and the callers as well. How do we help them with these measures, I believe, that we introduced? And by doing so, it puts more money into the coffer of the general fund. And this is, I think, a great plan for economic recovery. And we should also look at reducing red tape so we can get the people back to work and open the doors. And diversification too. We recently did introduction to new industries with GITA to work on drone industry and distribution industries too, reducing government fees for licenses like LLC from $1,000. Why, right? And we overrode that to make it $250. Let's help the businesses. And yes, generating the greater business economically helping them will help us improve our roads, improve our police, improve our public safety and education too. So it's not to hurt the government, it's to improve the government by allowing the people to participate in the free enterprise and build business.
Mm-hmm. You know, and one thing that we did hear from the governor was, congratulating the 36th Guam legislature on the inauguration, congratulating Speaker Teresa Lahi, and then, her final statement in the press release was, let's get to work. And you kind of heard that also from the speaker, a former speaker, now vice speaker, Tina Munoz Barnes, when we interviewed her yesterday. She also said, we got to work, and she also introduced a pair of bills, because that seemed to be the theme yesterday. Was everybody was talking about, we got to rebuild our economy, we got to unify, and work toward recovery. Have you had a chance to see the first bill that was introduced yesterday? It was introduced by Tina Munoz Barnes, Peter Tolahi, and Senator Ada. An act to temporarily waive payment of business license fees from October 1, 2020 to September 30, 2022, and to allow for a business license fee credit for businesses who paid their license fees prior to the enactment of this act. It's called the Business Assistance Act of 2021. Have you had a chance to look at this? What is your, cursory review?
I haven't read the entire bill, but I did glance over the title of the bill. And if we were reducing fees for businesses, I'm all for it. And I appreciate the introduction by the author too. And let's get a public hearing for it so we can gain the support with our colleagues and see, of course, the impact. But again, I think by reducing fees where we can for businesses will allow them to open their doors and hire the employees that we need to help them get back to work.
Have you heard anything?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Senator Blas.
I'm sorry. Along those lines is my, I guess there's the excitement is that there is a focus, and there's a necessary focus on the economy. That's what I appreciate it, and it brings about the discussions, of the ideas necessary to be able to rebuild the economy and recover from this. But that said, is also we've got to recognize the fact that it's one thing to be able to reduce the fees, but if the business is not, still can't find it viable or not a way to be able to do this, or there's no customers that come into the business, whatever percentage of it is, if it was a $250 fee, or if it was a 5% BPT, 5% of zero is zero. Okay, you can't pay the $250 fee if you don't have the customers to buy in the business. So we've got to help to address not just the ability to do this, but the confidence to be able to run the business or to even go into the business. So there's a lot of integral parts, cogs to this wheel that we got to be mindful of and we got to work on. And I appreciate that again, that all these ideas are coming to play so that we can look at this full picture and see what we can do to get it moving.
Well, your bills, you've been talking about your bills, the three bills that you guys have introduced since last week when the release came out. Have you had an opportunity to get the temperature of your colleagues on the other side of the aisle and how they kind of will lean on these measures?
I think that first off, their priority had been, and rightfully so, okay, was to gain the leadership. I mean, right up into the 11th hour, I think we all got that release, late into the night as to what now that leadership will be. And now that that's resolved, and really in discussions, in those discussions, while they were looking at the leadership, I have managed to say, okay, so what will be the focus? And I'm glad, and I'm to hear that the focus was on, let's get this economy back up and running. And so we'll hold up to that, and hold all of us to this, so that we can do this together.
Senators, I mean, we all want the same thing. I think we want to be able to go back to our lives. We want to be able to support our families. We want to be safe. And of course, Democrats, Republicans have different ideas of how we're going to get there. So where do you think that middle ground is, and what are some of the concessions maybe that you're willing to make?
I think part of the middle ground is the concern of, making sure, and this is agreeable on both sides. I'm very sure, making sure that we don't leave anybody out. Okay, earlier there was a caller that said that basically talked and was concerned about the government services. Yes, we recognize this. That they're in this exercise or in this process that we're going through, that we don't negate those basic services that are necessary, that are needed by the government. And I think that Senator Jim will agree with this, that yes, no, that's not our focus. Our focus is to make the community whole. And what does that mean? Does it mean that we're going to have to look at how government services are being provided, or whether or not they should continue to provide it? Sure. Does it mean that that there may be some businesses that really got to take a look as to whether or not it's viable to continue or move on, or are new businesses is our opportunity for new businesses? Sure. It's putting everything on the table. If there's anything that the last 11 months has been able to provide to us today, is that we're at the bottom. We're at the bottom of this pit, and we've got to be able to get out of it. How are we going to get out of it, so that when we get to the top, that those services continue to be provided, the businesses are thriving, people are earning, what they would like to and what they expect to earn, and our economy's moving. Okay. And our island is healthy.
All right. Any word?
I'd like to also add on with Senator Blas as well. Yes, the discussion will happen, and that's what measures and bills are about, to bring the discussion forward, for us to have a public hearing and to discuss this with our colleagues. I think these three bills, they could be strengthened. Some questions could be asked, but we started the discussion, and that's the first thing we want to do. Are they perfect? Probably not. But I think we'll gain a lot of ground by having a public hearing and having our colleagues ask some questions. What we did is we introduced this. And if there are other bills to be introduced, well, I'll be happy to look at it too. I haven't seen these comparables yet, but let's have a discussion on the table. And if there's a better plan, I'm more than open to hear it. So this time with the 36th Guam legislature, we have a different the structure is different now. It's an 8-7, and the discussion is going to be different. And that's why I'm happy to be part with my colleagues. And we have other measures as a whole to address as well, that we want to bring the discussion to the table. I'll be interested to hear Adelu's discussion, and I'm more than willing to hop on board or make our own suggestions too. But show us. What we did is we started it, and so let's move it forward. So I appreciate that.
All right. Any word though on when these public hearings may be held?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
No, not yet.
Right. At least it's online.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
We'll
follow that closely. We'll be following that closely to make these timeframes. Because the people want it. The people want action, and we're not going to be held up in any of the timelines as well. So I'll be pushing for that. Our team will be pushing, and I got a great whip over there that's going to be whipping the votes for us too. So thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right. Thank you, Bree.
Session's
thank you,
adjourned.
Jason. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Andy.
Here.
Hey,
Happy
Lieutenant
New Year.
Governor.
Congratulations.
Oh, there we have
All right,
Lieutenant
take care.
Governor.
Okay.
All right.
Morning.
All right, take care.
Congratulations
Bye-bye.
on your inauguration.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being there. Thank you for being there.
My
Okay.
pleasure.
All right, buddy. Hey,
All right.
talk to you.